His title is Heal the Planet, Heal Yourself. I love that word, healing. Um, so he's a systems engineer, but he's the founder and director of Climate Healers, which is a nonprofit dedicated towards healing the Earth's climate. So he's the perfect person for today because we need to know how to heal our climate and our Earth. Um, he um, he also told his granddaughter that before she turns 16, by 2026, he wants to be able to have helped a lot of people transition into a plant diet. So we and stop eating her relatives. I love that. And the animals. And he has made a promise to her. So I'm gonna hold you to that too. I'll do my pinky with you too, because I want you to do that. Thank you so much for being here, and please tell us how we can heal our planet, please.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you
Mhm,
so much for that kind introduction.
mhm,
As Linda said, I wanted to talk about how do we interact with the earth, with the environment? How do we heal the planet, and in the process heal ourselves? So heal yourself, heal the planet, heal yourself. And uh, this I've been studying this for about 16 years now, and the difficult part initially was how do we frame this so that people understand that this is something that they have a responsibility to do. So I used this quote from Bertrand Russell, who said, the greatest challenge to any thinker is to state the problem in a way that will allow a solution. And to
mhm,
be honest with you, when I started working on this, I thought we couldn't solve it. In fact, I thought we were going to just die off because it's so dire, right? So I was studying all this and looking at how bad things were, and I thought we are the only species that doesn't belong on Earth. And in fact, I was in this sanctuary in the Western Ghats of India in 2009. And I mean, it's a beautiful sanctuary, as you can see. It was full of wild animals and insects. At night, I couldn't even hear my sister talk. There was such a loud din of insects. So I asked the owner, how did you make this happen? Because the owners were a couple from New Jersey, of all places. They came to India and bought a coffee plantation, and it became this sanctuary. And they said, oh, we did nothing. We just tore down the fences and gave it back to the animals, and the animals did everything. So what? That's all you have to do to bring back the forest? They said, oh, actually, we also had to patrol the land and make sure that no human being comes inside. And at that point, I felt very, very small, as if I don't even belong in my own home, because I was born in this forest, just 200 kilometers from where I was standing. So I was depressed. We are the only species that doesn't belong. Every other animal just lives and the planet thrives. We just live and the planet dies. So then I was watching this elephant in the sanctuary, and the elephant was breaking branches of trees, eating the leaves, throwing the branch away. Then breaking another branch, eating the leaves, throwing the branch away. And the elephant was doing it so fast. I asked Pamela, the owner, isn't that elephant destroying your forest? Because the elephant keeps doing that for about a week. It could completely destroy that sanctuary. That's how fast he was doing. And Pamela said, no, the elephant will stop. The elephant, wherever the elephant broke branches of trees, that's where the sunlight streams and nourishes the underbrush. And the elephant stops. At some point, something in nature tells the elephant stop. And that allows the forest to thrive. So every animal just lives like that, and the planet thrives. So that was going through my head. But I still thought human beings are the only species that doesn't belong on Earth. And then the next year, my granddaughter was born. And so on the left here, you see my picture of her when she was a month old. And I went to see her. I was living in San Francisco Bay Area. And she was born in Phoenix, Arizona. And I went to see her when she was a month old. And I held her in my arms for the first time. And she looked up at me and she smiled. And she had this knowing smile, as if she was saying, what do you mean I don't belong? I belong exactly as I am. And you haven't understood me. And that completely turned my head around 180 degrees. I realized that you should belong exactly like the elephant. There is something that we are doing that we don't yet understand. And so I call this genuine systems analysis. And I'm a systems engineer. And in my field, William Orfors is a well-known systems engineer, and he wrote a book in which he said, the real product of genuine systems analysis is not solutions, it is understanding. So I realized I didn't yet understand the problem. And this is why I think we don't belong. And so since then, I've been treating my granddaughter as if she was my teacher. I would just do whatever she wanted. And in the process, she taught me. And I began thinking about what is it that we have been doing all along and why, how can we belong exactly as we are? And it turned out that the answer was staring at me in the face. Yeah, because as soon as we admit that humans are changing the climate of the planet, well, that's what we've been doing. We are the climate regulating species of the planet. That's our job as a species. Yeah? We own the climate, whether we like it or not. So then you look at the data and you see everything fits. Because the Earth has gone through over 100 ice ages in the last 3 million years. And we know that. And here is a graph showing the ice ages and the warm periods between the ice ages. The white line corresponds to temperature over the last 650,000 years. So current time is on the right, and 650,000 years ago is on the left. Okay, and you can see the temperature going up and down, right? And you can see the carbon dioxide levels also go up and down in the atmosphere. And this recreation was done by drilling through the ice in Greenland and Antarctic and slicing it layer by layer and analyzing the air bubbles. So we had to have sophisticated scientific instruments to figure this out. Okay? And through those instruments, we now know that we've gone through over 100 ice ages. And the difference in temperature between the warm period and an ice age, the high and the low on this white curve, is about 15 degrees Fahrenheit or more. Okay, I think it's 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a lot. That's 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's a lot. So during this time, the Earth spawned us as a species. Yeah. Gave us control of fire about 500,000 years ago. So we now could start building tools and weapons. And then 50,000 years ago, gave us partnership with wolves. Wolves became our dogs, and they lent us their sense of smell, their sense of hearing, and then their sense of sight. And they are much, much better than ours. So they helped us find predators before the predators could catch us and kill us. This allowed us to move out of Africa and spread throughout the world. Okay, so we did that in the previous ice age. That's 50,000 years ago. And then 10,000 years ago, you can see the current warm period happened. And it looked exactly like the warm period that happened 3 ice ages ago. Except instead of the temperature going down to another ice age, you see it stay flat and even go up. So you can zoom in to see what really happened there. You can zoom in on the CO2 levels, you can zoom in on the temperatures and see what happened there. And you'll see, if you look at the CO2 levels, the CO2 levels matched what was happening 3 ice ages ago until about 6,000 years ago, and then we see it take off. Okay. Same with the methane levels. It started taking off around 4,000 years ago. And this is what our ancestors did. They were chopping down trees and heating up the climate. Okay? So they heated up the climate so that the Earth did not go back to another ice age. And they kept the temperature constant so that we could do agriculture. So that's what happened. If you look at the temperature curve, 20,000 years ago, we were in an ice age. We came out of the ice age around 10,000 years ago. It went over this glaciation threshold, which is in blue. And so the red line is the temperature, okay? And then it went up, and it would have gone back to another ice age 5,000 years ago. Instead, it stayed flat because of what our ancestors did. For 10,000 years, we heated up the climate. And then over the last 200 years, we discovered fossil fuels. Okay? So initially, we heated up the climate by just cutting down forests. Then over the last 200 years, we discovered fossil fuels, and we raised the temperature by another 1 degree Celsius, or about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And now we are at this point where we have to make a decision. What do we do? Do we continue hitting the climate? Now we have built all the tools and technologies we need to understand what we have done. And now, do we continue heating up the climate? And that may cause a near-term extinction. Most likely it will if we continue doing what we're doing. Or we transform to a climate healing species. And that, I think, is going to be the greatest transformation in human history. It's going to be bigger than even the discovery of fire or agriculture. Okay? This is going to be huge when we do this. That's the greatest transformation in human history. That's the second possibility. Those are the only two options. That's the choice we face today. And we have to pick what we do. Okay. Now, we have been studying this and we have been sort of talking about climate change for 3 or 4 decades. And the UN has been meeting every year. So they're meeting actually next week in Egypt, COP27. And yet there's been no progress. And you ask, why has there been no progress? In fact, things are getting worse and worse and worse. And Gus Speth, who is one of the foremost environmentalists in America, he's the founder of the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC. He said, and a professor at Yale University, by the way, he said, I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address those problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. He said that about 10 years ago. And I remember reading this and I was shocked, Wow, that's what it is? Selfishness, greed, and apathy. That's why we are not solving the problem. But I'm a scientist, but I'm also an engineer. And engineers apply science and come up with solutions. So I started looking at this from a systems engineering perspective and see, why is there selfishness, greed, and apathy? Is this human nature or is this part of the system? And it turned out it is part of the system. So if you look at the global industrial economy, the way the economy is being set up, it's really like a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme, really. Okay. So current growth formula for the economy, economic growth, happens when you monetize everything. So they monetize everything, so that when dead animals have more economic value than living animals, they kill all the animals. When dead trees have more economic value than healthy trees, we chop down the trees. And when sick people have more economic value than healthy people, we sicken people. So we monetize everything. And then through that mechanism, we have endangered life on Earth now. And so growing the economy is really about killing the planet. That's what it's become. Okay? And to keep growing the economy, we addict everyone into compulsive behaviors. We want people to keep buying more and more and more. And then we lie to ourselves, like the protein myth, the calcium myth. These are all lies we tell us. We lie to our children, for heaven's sake. Okay? We lie to ourselves. And then we steal from the poor to enrich the rich. So I went to this local, I think it was a Whole Foods, and I bought a pound of basmati rice for $2. I think it was organic basmati rice. And then I traced it back to the woman in Orissa, India, who grew it. And I got, she got paid 5 cents a pound for that rice. So she really got ripped off. But that's called profit making. Okay? So that's completely allowed in the system. In fact, you are celebrated for making more and more profit. So, but on the other side, if I give $2 donation to charity and only 5 cents goes to the recipient, we yell at it. We yell at the nonprofit people who did that, right? When we put them in jail. So this is how we make sure that money always flows up the hierarchy and doesn't come down as much. And this promotes selfishness, greed, and apathy. And it's the currency system, actually. If you look at the way that the rules for the currency system is the only people who can create currency in our economy are banks. And how do they create currency? Through fractional reserve And the fractional reserve mechanism fundamentally promotes this growth. So when you deposit $100 in the bank only has to keep $10. It can loan out the remaining $90. So that's called fractional reserve currency system. So that $90, when you put that back in the bank keeps $9 and loans out $81. So this way, from the original $100, you're creating like $900 in extra money, giving it away in loans. So when you give it away in loans, you ask the person who borrowed the money to go and extract from the planet and create some growth, okay, so that he can return the money back to you. Along with that, you have to return interest. So that creates an impetus for constant growth in the economy and competition among us. So we have to compete with each other so that we can return the money back to the bank. Now, the people who really own the banks, they actually own all the corporations, right? So if you look at who owns all the corporations, big pharma, big meat, big chem, big media, big banks, big oil, big defense, you'll see the same four financial holding companies. Fidelity, Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock. And if you start drilling down into who really owns those, you'll discover that they're a private holding company, like the Fed, right? The private holding company, they don't have to disclose who their shareholders are. See, we don't even know who owns all this stuff. Okay? And they're running this whole thing. It's the colonial game of empire. Okay? This is an empire building game that has been going on. And we are all out there hunting for money. Okay? So this system is causing the climate to heat. It's heating a lot up in the Arctic. You can see it's all dark red. The white spots are where it's not yet heated up yet. So, but you can see it's mostly the Earth has been heating. And we are now nearing a lot of tipping points. So these tipping points are events in the climate system. If you cross over that, you can't control it anymore. It just becomes runaway, right? And there are a lot of tipping points that are less than 2 degrees Celsius. Our estimate is anywhere from 1 degree to 2 degrees Celsius, right? So, you cannot come up with exact numbers for this tipping point. You can come up with ranges. And the ranges are saying that West Antarctic ice sheet could collapse quickly. The Arctic winter sea ice could collapse. Not boreal permafrost, and all these tipping points are on the verge of collapsing, or they may have even started collapsing. We don't know, okay? Because you can't know until you try to reduce the temperature, and you cannot. That's when you know that you've already reached tipping points. So this is why it is critical that we heal the planet now, as quickly as possible. Because if we cannot control it, we're going to have near-term extinction, not just of other species, of human beings as well. Okay? And some people are talking about almost all human beings gone within the next 15 years. That's how bad things are. And at the UN, I've gone to 4 different conference of the parties. Basically, the nations of the world getting together and figuring out how to solve climate change. And their mandate is to reduce the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. That's what they've been talking. That's what they've been supposed to have been doing for the last 3 decades, okay? So this is the 26th meeting, happened in Glasgow last year. I went to that one. And I'm not going to the next one in Egypt next week because I think it's a complete waste of time. They're all, they might as well be playing golf. That's really what they're doing. Because they are not even talking about reducing the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. They are not even focused on reducing the emissions of greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Okay? They're talking about reducing the future projected emissions increase. And they're congratulating each other for having agreed to a reduction in the future projected emissions increase. This is not serious, folks. The planet is literally dying in front of our eyes. In fact, between 1970 and 2010, we wiped out 52% of wild animals. And that became 58% by 2012 and 68% by 2016. Okay? So we are on track to wipe out almost all wild animals by 2026. So this economic system is literally killing us and killing the planet. Then we looked at all of the activities in the economic system. I classified this into two: the burning activities, which is cars, planes, trains, because this is where we burn fossil fuels. Okay? And we move things around with cars and trucks and so on. So all the burning activities, and then I looked at all the killing activities that we do. The food system we kill, for clothing we kill, for entertainment we kill, with pet industry we kill. So you look at all the killing activities and the burning activities, and it turns out when you put the two together, you pretty much cover all of our economic activities. So this means you can start modeling what we are doing on the planet using just two machines: the burning machine and the killing machine. Then I asked, why are these two machines so important to us? They are important to us because we have bought into certain truths. And these are what I call axioms. Okay? So there is the burning machine is implementing what I call the false axiom of consumerism. And the killing machine is implementing what I call the false axiom of supremacism. An axiom is a truth that you take for granted. You don't question it. It's an axiom. It's a truth that you take for granted. And we are sort of born into this system with this axiom. The three axioms, and this is how selfishness, greed, and apathy comes about in the system. Okay? The false axiom of supremacism is that life is a competitive game in which those who have gained an advantage may possess, enslave, and exploit animals, nature, and the disadvantaged for their pursuit of happiness. This is what I call the might is right rule. It's all for me. Take as much as you can for me, right? This is competition. That's where the selfishness comes from. Okay? And it's all geared towards the pursuit of happiness. Second is greed. That's the second one that Gus Speth mentioned. And this is the false axiom of consumerism. It says that the pursuit of happiness is best accomplished by stoking and satisfying a never-ending series of latent desires. It's what I call the greed is good rule. Okay? And this leads to an infinite consumption model. You want everyone. So the assumption, in fact, MIT wrote a model about this called World 3, in which they assume that every human being is trying to consume an infinite amount of stuff. And of course, the planet is going to die in that model if you do that. And they are calculating when is the planet going to die. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that we've been doing. And so we know it's an axiom because we see 3,000 ads every day and we think that's normal. Right? And the third is what I call the false axiom of world hunger, of global hunger. That's where the apathy comes from. I mean, the fact that 1 billion people are going hungry on the planet and the rest of us are not feeding them, that's apathy. And that we have taken as as axiomatic because we think the global economy will grind to a halt without a significant portion of humanity being chronically hungry. But they won't come and work in the slaughterhouses, will they? If they have plenty of food to eat. So this drives the apathy. So this selfishness, greed, and apathy is driving our economic system. And we are basically heating up the climate by that. Okay? And I say the climate heating system is based on deception, domination, death, disease, and destruction. It's based on deception. Because if I told you it's based on greed is good, might is right, and global hunger, so don't touch those three, my God, everybody would be up in arms, saying, this is not part of my religion. There's no religion that says greed is good. No religion that says might is right. Okay, so the only way you can propagate this system is through deception. Lots of lying going on. Protein myth, calcium myth, these are all deceptions, right? And even if you look at what they're doing in climate change, and I show in the background a satellite picture of the Amazon and how they, when they cut the Amazon, deforest the Amazon, they don't deforest it entirely. They leave clumps of trees behind, like lines of trees. And you ask, why are they doing that? It turns out they're doing that because they have a scientific convention that in any 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid, if there is at least 10% tree cover, that's still a forest grid. So they can pretend they haven't deforested the Amazon. So that's the kind of deception that's going on. Domination over other species, domination over other people. death for the animals, diseases for human beings, and destruction for the planet. That's the economic system, the climate heating system. But the solution is staring at us in the face. Okay? And it's the food system. That's where that's the trigger point in the current system that you can leverage and change. Okay. So you look at the land use, and these numbers are all from the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I just put it together in a map to show you, because they show bar graphs. It's very hard for people to understand bar graphs. So, okay. So I took their bar graphs and said, if you take all the land that we use to grow all of our plant-based foods and put it in one place, it'll fit inside Australia. Okay, roughly. And that's 85% of the food we eat is already plant-based. That'll fit inside Australia. Oops. And if you take all the land that we need for growing animal foods, that's 37% of the land area of the planet for grazing the animals, 6% for growing crops to feed them, 43% of the land area of the planet. So it'll fit inside. It'll occupy almost all of Asia, all of Europe, a little bit of Africa. That's the red blotch there. And that only gives us 12% of the food we eat in terms of weight. And that animal food is responsible for causing all those deserts that you see there. And I've seen it happen in front of my eyes in Rajasthan. Okay. Then you take all the land that we use for growing timber and monocultures of trees. That would cover all of North America, all of Central America, and a little bit of South America. In the original forest, the bottom half of South America. Okay. And the rest are biofuels. And built land, all the cities and railroads and roads put together would fit inside Madagascar, a little bit more than Madagascar. It's only 1% of the land area of the planet. And then to get 3% of our food, we have been destroying the entire ocean. That's seafoods. Okay? So I'm sure Glenn has told you these numbers. It's just mind-boggling that the mismanagement of land. And that mismanagement of land causes a tremendous imbalance in the carbon content on the land, the CO2 content of the land. Okay. So we take all the land that we're using for growing animal foods, all the grazing land. So I sort of take the 6% for the crops out and just take the grazing land. That only stores 2% of the CO2 on land. And on that land, we have cut about 3 trillion trees over the last 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, there used to be 6 trillion trees on the planet. Now there are only 3 trillion left. So 98% of the CO2 on land is here in the remaining 50% of the land area of the planet. And that contains 98% of the CO2. Now, land has 3 times as much CO2 as the atmosphere, even though we have mismanaged it so drastically. Okay? Which means if you bring back the 3 trillion trees, you can literally reverse climate change. And that is why animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change. And I claim it's responsible for at least 87% of greenhouse gas emissions on an annual basis. So we wrote a position paper, we got it published, and you're welcome to see it on our website. Okay? And I'll show you where the 87% comes from. We created a model to explain to people why animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change and how to solve climate change. Because to solve something, you always write a model first. At least that's what I do as a systems engineer. Okay, and then I look at the optimum solution within that model, and then figure out what we should all be doing. So this is the climate bathtub model. So we are explaining climate change through a bathtub. And the bathtub, all the numbers here correspond to what's in the IPCC report, and it is valid as of 2021 November. Because I did this for Glasgow, Scotland, COP26. So the 1,000 liters of water in the bathtub corresponds to the 1,000 billion tons of CO2 we have added to the atmosphere since 1750. So that's the extra that we added to the atmosphere. And the bathtub is filling up with 2 taps, or 2 faucets. The burning machine faucet is pouring 35 liters per minute. So that corresponds to the 35 billion tons of CO2 we add to the atmosphere from the burning machine. The killing machine faucet is adding 15 liters per minute. And that corresponds to the 15 billion tons of CO2, a carbon dioxide equivalent, that we add to the atmosphere from the killing machine every year. Now, these numbers are known, right? And then there are two other tanks that I show. And those tanks have to be taken into account before you can come up with a solution. So there's an overhead tank called the aerosol tank that has 350 liters of water. And that tank has a valve that's connected to the burning machine faucet. So for every 1 liter per minute that you turn down the burning machine faucet, the tank opens up and lets 10 liters pour out of the aerosol tank into the bathtub. So the aerosol tank corresponds to the cooling gases that we pour into the atmosphere when we burn fossil fuels. And they are masking about 1/3 of the heating so far. So that's why it's 350 liters, okay, compared to the 1,000 liters in the bathtub. Now, the killing machine faucet is connected to the drain of the bathtub. And that corresponds to all the trees that could come back on that land if we just leave the land alone. We give it back to nature on all the grazing land. Okay? So we are estimating that if we just leave that land alone, it would start sucking down about 30 gigatons of CO2 every year. So that's 30 liters per minute. That's the maximum that you can drain out of the bathtub. That's a lower bound in my estimate. So it's not the maximum. It could be higher, but I'm saying it's at least 30 liters per minute. So the model says that for every 1 liter per minute that you turn down the killing machine faucet, it's going to open the drain and let 2 liters pour out of the bathtub into the vegan reforestation tank. And that tank has 2,000 liters capacity. That again is a lower bound. So I'm saying it's at least 2,000 liters. It could be more if we start helping nature as opposed to just sitting around, when the trees come back. So it's at least 2,000 liters we can store. Now, with this model, then you say, how do you solve climate change? How do you drain the bathtub and without overflowing the vegan reforestation tank and stop the baby from drowning? So the assumption is that the baby is going to drown if the bathtub has more than 1,200 liters of water. So you could argue whether it's 1,200 or 1,250 or 1,150, but somewhere in there, we are going to trigger a whole bunch of nonlinear feedback loops, and the climate will be out of control. Okay? So, and then the baby will die. All life on Earth will die. So that's the model. Then you ask, okay, how do we address this? First of all, any plumber will tell you, if you got two faucets pouring into a bathtub, okay, and you got a finite tank, everything is finite here. There's no infinite tank here, right? You got two faucets pouring into a bathtub, you have to turn off both faucets eventually. So you have to address both of these faucets. Okay? The question is, how do we address them? And at the UN, they've only been talking about the burning machine. They don't even mention the killing machine. They even go to the cafeterias and eat hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Okay? It's disgusting. So they are not even addressing the killing machine. So I said, okay, suppose we do what the UN wants. Suppose we turn down the burning machine faucet by 15 liters per minute, or turn down the killing machine faucet by 15 liters per minute, and let's look at what happens. First, I want to show you what happens if we don't do anything, if we don't turn off both faucets, any faucet. That animation shows that within 4 minutes, the baby will die. So each minute corresponds to a year in real life, right? So which means in 4 years, we can expect a whole bunch of positive feedback loops to trigger, and will be point of no return for the climate. So that's if we do nothing. So we have to do something. Now, suppose the next animation I'm going to show you is we're going to turn down the burning machine faucet by 15 liters per minute and don't do anything to the killing machine faucet. That's what the UN has been talking about doing. If they did that, the baby actually dies sooner in 1.4 minutes. Why? Because when you turn down the burning machine faucet by 15 liters per minute, 150 liters is going to pour out of the aerosol tank into the bathtub, and the baby will drown in 1.4 minutes. So now it's filling up at 35 liters a minute, but still the baby drowns in 1.4 minutes. So it dies sooner. This is why I'm glad, even though the UN has been talking about reducing it, they haven't done it. It's just all talk so far, right? Now, The third option, the third animation I'm going to show you is if we just turned on the killing machine faucet by 15 liters per minute and don't do anything to the burning machine faucet. If we did that, the baby dies in 40 minutes. Why? Because when you turned on the killing machine faucet by 15 liters per minute, you basically turn it off. You're going to open the drain. So 35 liters is coming in, 30 liters is going out every minute, which means that the bathtub is filling up at 5 liters per minute, which is a 90% reduction from the 50 liters per minute if we did nothing. This is where the 87% figure in my paper comes from. Okay? So I'm saying the killing machine is causing 90%, 87% of the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Okay? So, but still the baby dies in 40 minutes because, like I told you, you have to address both. Now, if you address both, if we turned on the burning machine by 15 liters and the killing machine by 15 liters, then the baby lives. The baby lives. Why? Because the water level will go up to 1150 liters and then it starts coming down at 1140, 1130, 1120, 1110. And as it comes down, you can now turn on the burning machine faucet more and more and more and eventually shut it off. That's how you solve climate change. Address the killing machine first and then turn on the burning machine slowly. Okay, so this is how you take care of the aerosol tank and drain the bathtub. Now, you could ask, now it's gone up to 1150 liters, which is a 15% increase in CO2 in the atmosphere than what we have today. And so you ask, what is the minimum you need to raise the CO2 level in the atmosphere and drain the bathtub and solve climate change? So our model is saying that the minimum you need to raise the water level in the bathtub is 63 liters. So from 1,000 liters, you have to go up to 1063 liters. That's the optimum solution. And to do that, you have to turn down the killing machine today. Shut it off today. And start sucking down the CO2 from the atmosphere using with the trees, right? If we did that, you can solve climate change in about 66.7 years. And for 33 of those years, the CO2 level will be above what it is today by about 6%. I mean, it's 6% and then it comes down to 1,000. So it's about 1,000 liters, about the current value for 33 years. I think 29 years, it's at 1063 liters, which is 6% more. So anyway, it's a hardship for the next 33 years, and then we'll see it come down, and then over time we can turn it off. Okay? So, but we have to start now. We have to start now by turning off the killing machine. Now, suppose you say, wait a minute, we can't turn it off today. That's impractical. So you say, all right, so what is the minimum? How much time do we have before we have to turn it off? Otherwise, we're going to die. It turns out it's only till 2026, 5 years. 5 years from 2021. So in 5 years, which means in 5 minutes in the bathtub, if it takes you 5 minutes to turn off the killing machine faucet, you go from 15 to 12 to 9 to 6 to 3 liters per minute over 5 minutes. Then the water level will go up to 1195 liters. And then you can still drain the bathtub. Okay, but 1195 liters. I mean, I said 1,200 liters, the baby's going to drown, right? So the baby's almost drowning. And you have to leave it there for 36 years, for 36 minutes. So which means, and it'll take us 69 years to solve it. So we're going to lose another 3 years because we waited for 5 years. And for 36 of those years, we will be having 20% more CO2 than what we have today. Which means it'll be close to triggering, maybe even triggering some of these nonlinear feedback loops. I don't know. This is why I'm saying it's important, folks, to get to a vegan world as quickly as possible. This is the signal from nature. Just like the elephant got a signal saying, stop chopping those branches off and start doing something else, we're getting a signal from nature saying, stop heating the climate and start healing. Now, okay, that's the signal. Now, So we are in a miracle on the planet type of scenario, right? So when the miracle on the Hudson happened, I don't know if you guys remember this, when US Airways flight within 100 seconds after takeoff hit, and the engines just died because it hit a flock of geese. Engines died, and then the pilot had maybe 30 seconds to land the plane somewhere, and he landed it on the Hudson. And during that time, he told everyone on the plane, brace for impact. And he skillfully landed the plane. We are in a similar situation on the planet. We have to say, brace for impact, go vegan now. Okay, all of us, please go vegan now. And we may have to just go feed people vegan food if they don't want to know, they don't want to, go vegan by themselves. Because this is a desperate situation. Imagine if, Captain Sully told his passengers, brace for impact, put on your oxygen mask, and people in first class are saying, where's my service? That's the situation we are in, okay? That's what's going on at the UN in all these rich countries still continuing to eat animals. So what can we do? If we wait for government, it'll be too late. If we act as individuals, it'll be too little. It's not about just, look at me, I'm vegan, and you will figure it out by yourself. No, folks, we have to communicate to people. We have to act as communities. Then it might be just enough. This is what Rob Hopkins said. And so I'm appealing to the religious community because all religions are talking about compassion for all creation. So at the COP17 summit, a lot of religious leaders signed this statement, including Desmond Tutu. You can see he wrote plus Desmond over there on the right, on the left here. So he said, while climate change is a symptom, the fever the earth has contracted, the underlying disease is the disconnection from creation that plagues human societies throughout the earth. I put disconnection in quotes because that disconnection is a delusion. We think we are disconnected. We really are not. We have been doing nature's job all along, okay? Our ancestors were doing nature's job all along. So now we have been called to consciously do it. So now it says, we, the undersigned, pledge to heal this disconnection by promoting and exemplifying compassion for all creation in all our actions, which means they have a duty. All religions have a duty to be on board with this. Okay? Compassion for all creation. What is that? That's veganism. And so I do this for my granddaughter, and I'm doing it out of faith. Because I believe, as Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, as long as you're asleep, you think you're in charge. It's only when you wake up that you realize you have been played all along. I know we have been played by Mother Nature all along. We have been used. And now we have been told to wake up and to do this right. Okay? So I see COVID-19 is really like a chrysalis phase for humanity. We have been in a caterpillar phase. COVID-19 is Mother Nature saying, go to your rooms and think about what you've done and come out as a better species. So that's the moment of choice. And guess what? Our governments issued all these executive orders saying that slaughterhouses are critical infrastructure, and they kept the slaughterhouses open, right? So the governments are all trying to get back to the caterpillar phase. And it's up to us to pull them over to the butterfly phase in the chrysalis, because we're in the chrysalis now. From heating to healing, from deception to honesty. Okay? Tell the truth. It's not complicated. From domination to humility. Know that you belong exactly as you are, and you're not the boss of the planet. You're just another species. From death to health, from disease to happiness, and from destruction to harmony with nature. So that's the system we need to build. Because that's an economic system, a political system, an education system. Every system has to have that as the foundation. And it has to be based on the right axioms. Because as Buckminster Fuller said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that new model has to be based on the correct axioms. Selflessness, the true axiom of inner peace. The pursuit of happiness is best accomplished by seeking it within ourselves. It's what's called the self-mastery rule. You're not looking for things outside. It's the finite consumption model. So beyond a certain consumption, you really don't need anything because you're happy within. Generosity. instead of greed, generosity, which is the true axiom of unity, which is that all life is one family where we each bring our unique skills to give all we can, receive all we need, and become all we are, which is Dr. Shelley Ostrov's vitality code rule, what I call the Ahimsa rule. Okay? And so this is how we give more than we take. It's only when humans give more than we take that we heal the planet. And when we give more than we take, we heal ourselves. Finally, through activism. And I say this is the true axiom of global health, which is that free access to healthy, whole foods, plant-based, universal vegan meals should be a basic human right. This is the Food Healers Initiative, the Food Healers Rule. Okay? So we give away food in Santa Monica for free. Why? Because we think everyone deserves to have healthy food, easily available. It's not just for poor people. Even rich people are eating bad food. So the system is trying to make money off of their diseases. So from climate heating to climate healing, this is the greatest transformation in human history, right? Going from a system of normalized violence to one of normal non-violence. From playing competitive finite games to playing collaborative infinite games. This is something my granddaughter also taught me. She wants to play games that she can continue forever. And until she gets bored with it, and then she moves on to another thing. From a predator species to a caretaker species. And we call ourselves Homo sapiens sapiens, which means the wise hominid. And I never met someone who's wise going around saying, I'm wise. And that too twice. And this is something we name ourselves. Look at the arrogance of it, right? And instead, we should be calling ourselves Homo Ahimsa, which is a term that Judy Carman coined, combining a Latin word and a Sanskrit word. So which signifies that we are coming together as a species from around the world. And it describes our character, not our characteristic. And then you can see everything on the left-hand side of this civilizational shifts is coded in the money game, the money system that we have created, currency system that we have created. So we need to now create a new currency system that codes everything on the right-hand side so that you get rewarded for selflessness, generosity, and activism. The more you want to use things, the more you get. The more you want to use things for the benefit of others, the more you get. So you can create a game like that. So ultimately, what money is just pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents on them, and rules that we come up with for creating those money and how to use it. So we can do something different. And this is something that is being done right now. It's not something that I'm just making up. People have been living like this. So here is Sadhana Forest in 2003, and you see what they did by today. So they converted this barren land into a complete native forest. These are all native trees that used to be there before we cut them down. And it's got solar panels, completely off-grid. And there, if you go, you have to be vegan to go there. And you don't pay for anything. You don't have to pay for anything. You just go and stay and live there, and you volunteer. You help plant trees. So starting November 19th of this year, which is World Food Healers Day, we want to create a movement. And this is Viga the cow asking you to do this. Help me cook up this new movement. Heal the planet, eat plants, love animals, plant trees. So that's help me. So we are saying, please give away whole foods, plant-based, universal vegan meals, because anyone you feed is someone who's not eating animals. Okay? If you feed someone, they're not eating animals, and therefore they're probably not going to buy from fast food places. And therefore, we want to see the fast food places and all those places not grow anymore. And if they stop growing, they die. So that's how capitalism works, right? So we have to now dissolve capitalism with love by giving away whole food, plant-based, universal vegan meals. And the goal is to eradicate world hunger and heal people. Yeah. Because world hunger is a choice we make 3 times a day. So finally, I want to tell you about my granddaughter, who's been my greatest teacher. As I said, when she was 4 years old, she asked me to take her to see Cinderella. And at first I thought I'm going to be bored watching this movie because I've seen it so many. I know the story. But within 10 minutes, I sat up and started paying attention because I realized this movie was for me. And because Cinderella said something, she said, my mother told me, the only thing you need to know is have courage, be kind, and all will be well. And I said, that's it. It takes courage to be kind when everyone is cruel around you. It takes courage to stick out of your culture. But you need that courage to be kind to all life, and all will be well. The planet will be fine. Courage even to those who are not kind to you. Courage even to those who are cruel to other beings. Give them food. Okay? They will then melt in front of your eyes. Just because it is what is done doesn't mean it's what should be done. That's the second principle she said during the movie. She said that to the prince who was hunting animals. She said, just because we have been doing something all along doesn't mean you have to continue doing it. And finally, she said, imagine the world as it should be and act for it. What do you want the world to be? You want a vegan world? You have to act for it. Not the world as it is, right? So these three principles are what I call the Cinderella principles, and they form the core of what we do at Climate Healers. I even presented these principles at the European Union Parliament, and everyone loved it. So this was in 2015 when I first learned these things. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and open the floor for questions.
Thank you so much. Oh, wait. Thank you so much. That was marvelous, Dr. Rao. I love your Cinderella principles so much. I can understand why you like them because it's not just a matter of just concentrating on all the bad stuff, but concentrating on what you can do to make a change, to be positive and to be kind to everybody and everyone. And that is key because if we're not kind, it's not going to happen for us. But the thing is, sometimes it's hard to be kind, isn't it? I mean, when people say insult you, or when people are eating cheeseburgers like my family does, some of them in front of me, that's hard sometimes.
Right.
To be kind and to be silent,
right.
Not to say anything. So we do have a couple questions here. Let's see, I've got to find them now. One of them was
if I might address what you just said, Linda.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've been, I've taken the Liberation Pledge. Okay, which the pledge that I will not eat with others who are eating animals. I try to follow that. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but most of the time I do.
Yeah.
So I tell them, look, I cannot sit with you and eat because I've taken the Liberation Pledge.
Yeah.
Now that sends a message to them saying this is no longer acceptable, at least to this guy.
Oh, can you repeat that pledge one more time?
The Liberation Pledge.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look up the Liberation Pledge, it says it's a pledge that we will not sit at the table with someone who is eating animals.
Oh, I haven't taken that pledge, but I would like to.
Yeah.
I would really like to. That would, but you know what that would do? It means I wouldn't be seeing my family very much.
Well, you can still see them, just go to another room.
Anytime. Oh, I see.
So that basically sends a message to them saying this is no longer acceptable to Linda. Right?
Oh, I see what you mean. However, in my family, it might not work out that way. They'll be so offended right there that
well, that's part of it, right? I mean, if they're offended, it's their problem.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. We have a question, one from Mary. Let's see, the current system promotes selfishness, greed, and apathy, but how and who is promoting change on multiple levels? I'm not sure what she means by that exactly.
Yeah. When you look at a system transformation, okay, there are 9 types of leverage points that you can use to transform a system. This is according to Donella Meadows, who did the analysis on this. And you could be tweaking the system, but that it doesn't change the foundations of the system. You're just tweaking, say, the subsidies. This is the same system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you haven't changed the currency system, which is how selfishness, greed, and apathy are coded.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, when we go to the see, I only showed you the foundational shifts that need to be made because I wanted to show that this is such a fundamental transformation. Don't think about tweaking things to make it happen because it
Yeah.
doesn't work, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really about rethinking everything. And um, so this is why, I focus on creating something new. Okay. I'm actually working on a vegan university proposal.
A what?
A vegan university.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So the idea is to create a new education system because you say, what is the first system you need to build? Okay.
Yeah.
For the new system. And it
We
is,
need a new system. Yeah.
yeah, you need an education system because without education, you cannot get anywhere. So
Oh,
imagine having a,
can you add doctors to that?
yeah, of course.
Medical doctors, really? Because we need medical doctors to go to a different university.
Exactly. So we're proposing 9 colleges.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't include that because I thought it would take too much time, but we have 9 colleges in the vegan university proposal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
College of non-violent arts and sports. Because if you think about all the sports we have, they're all violent sports, competitive sports, right?
Yeah.
And they usually take the skin of an animal, turn it into a ball, and bat it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's showing our domination over animals. That's the sport we do. And
It's
so
because
instead of that, you need.
I have a new company though called Echo Sport, who's making non-leather balls and
Right,
footballs and soccer balls and
right,
baseballs and all that. I'm so happy
right,
for that.
right. And that's great. You need the non-leather versions of those, but then you also need different rules so that people can play infinite games as opposed to finite games.
Oh,
Because
I see what you mean. Mm-hmm.
yeah, finite games there is one winner and everybody else is a loser.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So everyone feels sad except for one person who has. So it's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. That's what we're
Oh
playing
yeah.
for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's mostly
I
agony.
never
It's only
thought
one
about
person
that.
with thrill.
I never thought about that. That's really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Oh,
the first college, and then College of Nonviolent Media and Communications.
oh, wow.
You need in a nonviolent media and communication,
Yes. Yeah.
and then College of Self-Care Sciences.
When you say that
Hmm.
non-violent media, can you give me an example of what that would mean?
Right now, we have a media culture, a system that highlights the violence that's
Oh
happening in our
yeah.
system, right? Because it's all about creating competition among us and scarcity and fear and so on. So you need something that highlights the good that's going on, highlights and
Oh.
then amplifies that.
Oh, nice.
And also, I mean, communications have to be non-violent to each other, not about yelling at each other and so on, right? It's not. See, right now we all have debates, and we figure out who's better than who's a winner in the debate.
Yeah.
Instead, you need to have dialogues, right? So it's a different way of communicating.
But we do need to know, like when Russia attacks the Ukraine and
Mhm.
what they did. We need to know that, right? I
Right, right,
mean,
right. But
we can
that again, if
compare.
you think about Russia and Ukraine, or
Hmm.
United States and Mexico, or all these countries that we have divided ourselves into, these are all lines drawn by a colonial power sometime.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Mostly on a map, somebody drew a line, and we're sticking to it and then fighting over each other. And I say in the future, it will not be about that. It'll be about eco-governance. We'll be drawing boundaries around ecosystems and saying, you belong to this ecosystem, you fix that. I belong to this, I'll fix that. So,
Oh.
because if you look at our purpose of governance today in the system, it's about protecting each other's property rights.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why we are governing each other.
Yeah.
And I say it should be about cultivating and the health and vitality of the planet.
Ay. That's good. I
Yeah.
never thought of that. I never thought of that. That's wonderful concept.
Yeah. So there are so many things like that that need to change. This is why I say we need a university.
It what?
We need a vegan university.
Oh, yes, we do. How wonderful. I love the idea.
Yeah.
Completely. Where will you start those? Are they physical community or online?
I think I would start physically and online, make it a hybrid, but
Oh,
start physically, I would say in India, because
oh,
because it has to be about yoga, ahimsa, and
mhm.
free food for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So what? It will cost money though. I mean, you have to pay for
Right.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how
yeah.
you have to
You
draw
have to
some resources from the old model to put it
yeah,
into the creation of the new model.
yeah. Well,
And
India in itself, isn't it one of the largest mm, vegetarian nations in the world, right?
right,
But vegan, not so much.
vegan is growing really fast. Um, India is India is one of the largest consumption of dairy and one of the smallest consumption of meat.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that
so
the dairy is one of my most
right,
horrific ones, I think.
this is
So
why it's easier
and
for India to convert to
spirit,
vegan.
the
Mhm.
spiritual part of the ghee. I've had Indian clients before, and they have a really hard time with taking away the ghee, you
Right,
know, for the spiritual part of it. So,
yeah.
um,
I have a video about that. I explain why we
oh,
use ghee, and I can send you that video.
oh, I'd love that. I'd love
Yeah.
that.
And you can
Yeah.
show that to your clients. Basically,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That would be wonderful. And then they'll probably understand more if they
Mhm.
see that. Okay. Um, now those were clients from a long time ago. I don't have them anymore. Right now, I have a whole bunch of Indian clients right now who are doing fine,
Good.
eating a whole food, oil-free plant diet. I'm so proud of them.
Awesome.
But I did have some in the past that were very difficult, and I could never get over the ghee. They could not. So,
Oh, they can. They just, they will eventually.
yeah. So, Ronnie, do we have more questions
Yeah,
for you?
we have more questions. Dr. Rao, one question from Sabine was, what is the conference you were referring to earlier? The one each year it's next in Egypt.
Oh,
What's the name of that conference?
UN Conference of the Parties. So it's the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change
Mhm.
is organizing these conference of the parties. And the parties are all the nations who signed that Framework Convention on Climate Change. So there are 193 nations who come together.
Oh, wow.
And they like playing golf.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Good. Gotcha. Another question we have is, what's the first thing that's reasonable that the federal government can do to move forward with climate healing right now? That's by Mary.
Yeah. Absolutely. Get rid of subsidies for animal agriculture, animal products, and put them on plant foods. If the government is really on our side, that's what they would be doing.
How do we get them to stop subsidizing when they get so much money from the
Exactly. So then you circle back to the money system and why the money system is causing this selfishness, greed, and apathy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes, like, is there someone who has a lot of money who's not selfish, greedy, and apathetic? Is there someone,
Yeah.
you're looking for one person who could do that, who could fund the beginning of the new system?
Yeah. I wish Al Gore would spend some of his money there.
Clarita has another question here. How can vegan global communities change the system and connect with one another? How will they become available to the general public on a global level when there are borders to overcome?
Yeah. I mean, this is why you need to create a new system. You need to create a new currency system. See, if you look at a vegan world, what is a vegan world? The vegan world has vegan institutions, vegan infrastructure, a vegan constitution, and a vegan currency system.
Yeah. All the above.
All of the above. So it has to be coded. Selflessness, generosity, and activism have to be coded in the currency model, in the currency system itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so this way, people need to lead their ordinary lives, and the planet must thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to create a system like that, where you're routinely giving more than you take from the planet. And I think we'll really have a lot of fun doing that. Creating a system like that is a lot of fun.
Well, Louise has a question. In brief encounters with meat eaters, when they say, "I love meat," what do we say when there is no time for a full discussion?
I ask people, would you deliberately hurt an innocent animal unnecessarily? And everyone usually says, no, of course not.
Yeah.
And I tell them, you're vegan. You just
Yeah.
don't know it yet. You're vegan
Yeah.
in your heart. You just
Yeah.
don't know it
Oh,
yet.
that's a good answer. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary's got a question, and this might have been, and some of these questions, by the way, may have been for some of the earlier speakers, but would apply here as well. Mary asks, it's difficult not to be insulting and sarcastic about crushing devastation to Earth. You know, a lot of us feel that way, even just in these presentations today. Please expand on spirituality.
But you
Yeah.
already answered that too. So, in a way,
Yes.
you
Oh,
wrote
yeah.
that question before,
Right.
the
Yeah.
spiritual part.
I mean,
So
I can explain from my perspective. Spirituality is about connectedness. It's about knowing that you're connected, that you belong on earth exactly as you are, no matter where you are, and that everyone belongs as they are, and that you're part of the whole. That's the connectedness. When you truly feel that at the core of your being, you're a truly spiritual person.
I really, really think that's so important because it's different from religion, which a lot of people get hung up on a certain religion, which I had a whole hypocritical religious background, which I no longer accept. But I feel
Right.
like I'm a spiritual person. But just like all people want to belong, we all want to be accepted and belong. And I think that spirituality is where we can feel that belonging, and we
Right.
can then work together for this. Yeah.
Right. So to me, spirituality is the core, and the different religions are ways to get to that core.
Okay.
Because most people don't want to know, don't want to do the work of meditation, yoga, and all that to feel that.
Yeah.
They just say, give me some rituals, that I could follow, and that will make me connected.
Oh, yeah.
So that's typically, you're supposed to have rituals that make you connected over time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start eating animals as a ritual, that makes you disconnected.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah.
Now, there have been a lot of people asking, have been commenting about today's presentations being somewhat depressing, right? That there's a lot of, it can be very, I think that a common term we've seen people responding is it's overwhelming, it's depressing, it's sad. And I would say, in essence, it feels hopeless at times just because of the sheer amount of push we would need to make in a we're seeing this now, right? Divided politically. How are we going to make such a change needed when we know time is short? In your case, as you mentioned, 2026, right? We've got to start making changes. What do you see as, what can people do? What's the solution for accelerating this?
See, I say faith and action are the antidotes to hopelessness and despair. Faith and action. So I say, have faith that this is going to turn around, because we are not in charge, because Mother Nature is in charge. She's always been in charge. And so we are being guided. We were sent to our rooms during COVID-19. we didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And things are going to get, I'm sure there's going to be other issues that show up that say, hey, dude, better do it now, right? People are going to get that message. So have faith that things are going to happen, and then act. Act meaning you can, I say to people, food healers is the most important thing you could be doing. Healing with healthy food, giving people healthy food. Heal yourself first, and then give people healthy food. Okay. So if one person, if you feed only one other person, you've actually prevented one person from eating bad food. That's destroying the planet. Right? So to me, it's that action. Like my son and I, we get together and cook once a week. And so we're not cooking for immigrants who come to a church because they are offloaded every Thursday in Phoenix by ICE, right? So these are people who have been processed at the border, and they come and drop them off at the church. So we make about 70 or 80 whole food plant-based meals once a week. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's not much, because we spend about 3 hours doing it, spend about $20 doing it. I mean, $30 or so, because, once I say this is what I'm doing, people come and give me vegetables and say, here, take it. I'm growing this. So
Huh.
so it doesn't cost much, right? And you realize that I could be serving these healthy meals. We make like a pot of stew
But,
and
but
take
when you're giving out free food, that costs money. How do you if I were to do that every weekend, I would lose a lot of money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you need the money for what? You need the money for your old age?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So it's making a choice. Mhm.
we have a question from Jonna. Do you think the exponential population growth needs to be addressed as part of the healing
Yeah.
of the planet? And if so, how?
Well, exponential population growth is part of the growth mechanism of the current model. It's part of the selfishness, greed, and apathy model, because they need a steady stream of hungry people to drive the economic growth. And so they say, you can actually you can prosper and come along. So they have to keep showing this, this good side of the thing, so that people keep wanting to do this. Because if people say, hey, this whole thing is hopeless and stop working, the whole thing collapses, right? So you have to keep
Right.
showing that. And in order to show that, you have to keep growing the economy. So there are more growing the population. So this is why it's really by design that the population is growing. Okay. And I say that if people feel secure, they automatically have less children than replacement. You'll see that in countries where people feel secure, their population goes down.
Yeah.
And then you see the governments, giving them incentives to have more kids because they have to keep the economy growing. Because that's the
Right.
Ponzi scheme you're running, right? So I say population growth is part of the current Ponzi scheme model. And when you build an economic system that's based on selflessness, generosity, and activism, I guarantee to you that the human population will start going down, not up.
Huh. We had another question, Dr. Rao, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but it says, I asked, where do you live currently? And how long have you been vegan?
Oh, me. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been vegan for 14 years.
Oh, I beat you.
Yeah, I'm sure you beat me.
Well, I was 44 before I knew, though.
Yeah.
And now I'm 78, and sometimes being vegan this long and having my family still not get it is sometimes very hard. I have one son and his wife and son who get it, but the rest of the family, they don't want to know anything, because basically I raised them on all that comfort food of cheese pizza. I made homemade pizzas, and we had the best gelato ice cream and all that. So they don't want to give it up, and neither do their spouses, and so it's very difficult. And when I asked them if they could come over for Thanksgiving this year, because we haven't, because of COVID and everything, they said, no, we don't want to eat your restricted food.
Well,
You see, so sometimes it's very difficult. This is 34 years of
I hear you.
being turned away from my family. I'm not invited to any of the barbecues anymore. So you see, it's hard sometimes. It is. But what I do is I work on other people instead. I have 30 friends I've helped go plant-based, and
Good.
people in the grocery store, and now I meet in the aisle, are plant-based because I'm talking about it all the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just create a new family around you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I went plant-based in 2015, but my wife and daughter, been vegan 10 years before me.
Oh, wow.
And then my wife had been vegan 5 years before me. So when I came in, it's when I got sick, right? And that's when unfortunately, often that's the catalyst, is sickness. And then not only did I go vegan, right? I went whole food plant-based, but then I learned about the animals, went vegan. And then I did a whole bunch of things from there, like I said, with Plant Pure Nation, with Plant-Based Network. I think so. You never know when that seed, and that's what you do. You water these seeds, and then so you never know when that seed will sprout, and you never know how big that seed will sprout. So all you can do is keep watering. And I think, Dr. Rao, when you were talking about never giving up, that's seeding, right? Keep seeding and planting, because you just never know. And I think that's you, but you got to plant as many seeds as possible. And that takes action, and part of, I mean, Linda, that's what you do. That's what I do. And in plant-based therapy, Linda, you do the Vegan Mentor, obviously climate healers. Dr. Rao, we're all seeding and we're trying to teach people, one, why they're seeding. Then we're trying to give them the seeds, right? The information to plant, but you still have, people have to go out there and then drop those nuggets of information. And I say that's, people often complain to me and say, well, we can't, there's no way we can, you talked about economies. There's no way we can change the economies because there's no money in broccoli. And I go, right, I hear that all the time. And I'm going, there's no money in broccoli. Are you sure about that? I said, they say, well, it's all marketing. Well, there's too much money from the industries that we're up against. And I go, marketing can go both ways. I said, you do realize, and then if you want to fight fire with fire, so to speak, I go, then why don't we, marketing is education. That's, so why don't we do that? I mean, so Dr. Rao, I'm looking forward to taking your university concept and blowing that up all around, because education is marketing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's, at the end of the day, I rolled out 10,000 schools for Microsoft IT Academy. We rolled out, and that was, the reason we rolled that out, I built it for Bill Gates, was to increase the adoption rate of new technologies. So in the case of this, we're increasing the adoption rate of a whole new economy, a whole new platform, a whole new way of looking at life in general, right? In connection, as you talk about. I said, that's not a big, I mean, that's not a small thing, but then again, if you had told me we would never have the ability to look up things on our phone or change culture, the way we think about things, I'm going, no, there's a lot of things we can say have changed in just the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible. That's my point.
You're getting me excited, Ronnie, thinking about what you guys could do together. Goodness.
We all got our segments here, but it's, again, as you said, we got to come together in that coalition of skill sets and experiences, and ultimately tribe building, right? Because that's,
I'll email you my proposal.
There we go.
There you go.
I had a lady come back to me after 9 years. I planted the seed 9 years earlier. She came back 9 years. She goes, I'm ready.
See, in my family, I know my family has my daughter, right? Because she was vegan, my wife was vegan. Then I became vegan. My son is vegetarian. Okay, my grandkids are vegetarian, vegan. Daughter-in-law, my other daughter is vegan, more so than me. So out of I have 2 sons that are not. Okay, but the other family members, I'm going, hey, we're doing pretty good. So
you are.
I'm just saying, don't give up. Don't give up, Linda. Don't give up.
34 years. Well, I'm trying. I need you to come in their living room, I think.
But you're doing great, Linda. I mean, basically, you're focusing on those who are sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
This is the right way to do it. Focus on those who are far away from the fence, leave them alone. So they have to come towards you eventually, right? Focus on those who are sitting on the fence and bring them over.
Yeah.
And the more people get on the fence, no?
I wear something vegan all the time, and even my emails, Vegan Mentor.
Right.
Well, I was frauded recently on a bank scam and everything. Anyway, I'm talking to the people trying to help me, and they say, what's your email? And I go, veganmentor@gmail.com. Are you vegan? Oh, I always wanted to know about that. And pretty soon we're not talking about my problem. We're talking about me helping them go vegan. It happens all the time with me.
Awesome.
So it's great, planting seeds everywhere. What do you eat in a day, may I ask, Dr. Rao?
Oh, me? Okay. Well, I usually have oatmeal for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
And then I have, I don't know if you know idlis and sambar. Idli and sambar. It's a South Indian
I don't know it.
staple.
No.
South Indian
Sounds
staple.
good.
So something staple, it's fermented rice and lentils,
Mhm.
and
Oh, I see.
actually it's steamed
Oh.
fermented rice and lentils.
Mhm.
And then I make
We're alive.
yeah.
I said you're gonna die on that diet. Go ahead.
And then I mix it with the sambar is like a lentil soup,
Okay.
and I do it with no oil. So I
Oh,
do
good.
whole food plant-based lentil soup.
Good.
So that's my lunch. And typically, dinner, I use the same thing that I did for lunch, or I eat some fruits and I'm done with it.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Well,
question, where do I live? I live in North Carolina now on a mountaintop about an hour north of Charlotte. Yes, we need more PhDs at Vegan University there, Sabine. So be looking for Dr. Rao. Seriously, Dr. Rao, you and I should connect again.
Yeah, please.
I got some ideas. I run Rock You Academy now. So Rock You Academy is thought leaders trying to get their message out. So this is right in line with that, building more plant-based vegan thought leaders, or getting more vegan thought leaders out there.
Right.
It's part of the channel. So let's talk. Guys, any other questions here?
Yeah, I see
by the way,
one.
Louise, thank you. Louise is feeling hopeful now.
Oh.
And she says, thank you for what to say in brief encounters to meat eaters. Do you want to intentionally hurt animals is the question there.
And then,
So she wants to thank you for that.
and Steve has a question. What do I say to my younger son who loves eating meat and tells me if I can't eat meat, life isn't worth living? My older son became a vegetarian when he met and married a vegan woman. What does he say to his son when he says that? If I can't eat meat, life is not worth living.
Right. Well, right now, it's an addictive phase they're going through, clearly, right? So you have to say, look, life is worth living no matter what. Okay? You don't have to leave that over to meat. That's the reason. Without meat, I'm going to die. Excuse me. What is that? Right? Yeah. That's the kind of dependence we don't want. But unfortunately, there is a lot of dependence here, because we have a system that addicts people into compulsive behaviors.
Exactly.
And so constantly they add lots of salt in order to make it addictive, or lots of fat to make it addictive. And meat by nature is addictive, right? So it's got adrenaline and all kinds of things going on in there, that addicts you.
Fat and salt usually with it, fat and salt, which is highly addictive.
Yeah, and they make it crispy, Yeah. So the goal is to keep people coming back for more and more and more, because we have told them your job is to grow your company. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of say in this, right? We have created a system in which everybody has to grow their corporation. And we even actually go and put money on their corporation, saying that one's growing. I want it to grow more, right? So we are playing into it. We are actually supporting this. So when we withdraw our support, the whole thing will collapse. Yeah.
I think it's really important too, as we go out there and spread the message, that when you have someone, and keep in mind, I fought my family for 10 plus years. I was like, don't you ever tell me what to eat. It's part of my culture. You're never going to convince me otherwise. Just stop it. And I would say, just don't, shut up and don't tell me how to eat. That's my line. I fought that for 10 years. So if there's anybody, I was that pain in the butt that was like, I ain't changing how I'm doing. You go ahead and you have your tofurkey. I'm going to go and, I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to put whatever I want in the fridge. And that's the way it is. And here I am now, arguably one of the biggest plant-based advocates in the world in terms of what I'm trying to reach, right? I started a TV network, all plant-based. That's the plant-based network. So but the point is, I think I say there's 4 tenets in the plant-based network. You have to do it with inclusivity, everybody, right? No matter what race, no matter what sex, what education level, what economic level, inclusivity, positivity, spin it positive, compassion, and fun, because people shy away. And there's a whole stereotype of vegans, and I am not just plant-based, I am a vegan for the animals. And people will push back saying, well, okay, you're just the stereotypical negative vegan. And I'm like, when you, in Hawaii, we say aloha. Alo means to share. Ha means breath of life. In Hawaiian, aloha means to joyfully share the breath of life. I would argue that veganism is about aloha. It's literally about the breath of life, the life, right? So I say, if you can show compassion to people and be happy in life, rather than this negative kind of personality trying to get your message across. Like, you know what? When I'm smiling and I'm happy and I'm eating good food and it's tasty and I'm sharing this and I'm like, you should try this, but here, but not force it, but still at the same time, expose it to as many people as possible. Demonstrating that's the most powerful, when you can show how you are a shining beacon of happiness in it, right? And with hope in it, then that in itself is funny. We call it tuning forks, right? Intention will often be next to each other, and one tuning fork will end up vibrating at the same tuning as a tuning fork next to you. You will end up, but when you're like that, you will end up attracting more people like that. When you have more people like you with the same vibration frequency of intention of trying to heal this world, you will find you'll attract more people, and then you create a bigger field, if you will, of compassion. So that's my spiritual take on things.
That's very nice, Ronnie. Dr. Rao, do you have any closing statements you'd like to make for everybody? You had a wonderful presentation, but is there anything you'd like to say as just a sign of closure and hope?
Yeah, well, for me, it's, have faith that we'll get it done.
Okay.
Okay, and
you seem to think that we will get this done. I mean, you have a positive process on that. You are very hopeful that it will get done.
Well, I mean, we are basically landing the plane of life, the climate heating civilization, landing it on this Hudson River. Hopefully everyone lives, right? That's our goal. Our intention is to ensure that every life is thriving.
Yeah.
And to me, it's, we have a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. And when you focus on action and work and have faith when you're doing it, you can work without all these worries and things behind you. You become much more effective when you do it with faith.
Yes. And Mary said, incredible and inspiring talk. So you have good results. And it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Rao,
very much for your work. Yeah. It's so wonderful. Keep going.
Thank you.
Here's a nice way to say goodbye. Watch. It's a vegan ahimsa. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Franklin is here. Namaste, vegan.
Yeah. Vegan.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you much, Dr. Rao. And Linda, thank you for bringing all these people together. Everyone, I want to give props to Linda. Linda is actually who brought all the guests here. Dr. Rao brought you, invited Dr. McDougall and Glenn Mercer and Dr. Openlander. We want to thank all of them for participating. I mean, Glenn has COVID and still, that's commitment. You know what I mean? That's like serious commitment.
And he wanted to stop halfway through, and I said, "No, take a drink of water and come back." And he did. He did it anyway. Now that's commitment.
Yeah. And I'll reiterate what Dr. Rao said. Two things: faith and action. Have faith and take action. That's what this. If there's anything you got from this whole, Dr. Rao, I think you encapsulated the whole idea here of Go Sustainable Life, which is the first one due to Linda.
Yeah, our very first one.
That very first one. It's all about.
Thanks to Ronnie for you putting it together for me. Thank you.
To get us together. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Linda, any last minute words for everybody here?
I think not, but I just know it was a wonderful presentation, and you are a wonderful human, and you're the kind of human we should all be. I'm going to aspire to be like you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Everyone, don't forget, we will have this recorded and produced, so we will have it available on veganmentor.com. We will have it available on Plant-Based Network. We will have it available on YouTube, on both YouTube channels, as well as our websites, and we'll have it on Facebook and share this with everyone. So check back, join the Plant-Based Network Facebook group. We have about 195,000 plus people on that group. You can join there. Make sure you join Vegan Mentor and Climate Healers too, right? So, Dr. Rao, before we get, what's the website for Climate Healers?
climatehealers.org.
There you go. climatehealers.org. Let's take action. Have faith, take action, and take care. Share, share, share.
Thank
Thank you.
you, Ronnie.